On February 15, 2025, Conservative Party leader Pierre Poilievre stood before a crowd of supporters in Ottawa. The occasion was the Canada First rally. This event, strategically timed to coincide with the 60th anniversary of the Canadian flag, became a platform for Poilievre to outline his vision for Canada. He addressed a range of issues from international relations to domestic economic policy. The rally was highly anticipated, drawing attention from across the Canadian political spectrum. The Canada First rally served as a pivotal moment in Poilievre's leadership. It was an opportunity for him to articulate his policies and directly address concerns regarding Canadian sovereignty and economic prosperity. The rally also provided a glimpse into the potential trajectory of Canadian politics, particularly in light of the ongoing tensions with the United States under President Trump's administration. Poilievre's decision to hold the rally on the anniversary of the Canadian flag was highly symbolic. It underscored his central message of putting Canada first. This resonated with many Canadians who felt increasingly uncertain about their place in the world. The rally's timing amplified its impact, framing Poilievre's message within a broader narrative of national pride and identity. The Canada First rally marked a significant moment in Canadian political discourse. It brought to the forefront key issues facing the nation. These issues included international relations, economic uncertainty, and the role of government. The rally also underscored the growing divisions within Canadian society, reflecting a broader trend of polarization observed in many Western democracies. Poilievre's decision to hold the Canada First rally came amidst heightened tensions with the United States. Former U.S. President Donald Trump, known for his protectionist policies and assertive rhetoric, had repeatedly targeted Canada with trade threats and tariffs during his presidency. This backdrop of uncertainty in the Canada-U.S. relationship added another layer of complexity to Poilievre's message. Poilievre used the rally as a platform to directly address Trump's previous threats against Canada. He strongly condemned the former president's actions, accusing him of undermining the long-standing partnership between the two countries. Poilievre's strong stance against Trump's protectionist policies resonated with many Canadians who felt that their country had been unfairly targeted. Central to Poilievre's message was the importance of Canadian sovereignty. He argued that Canada must be prepared to stand up for its interests on the world stage, even when faced with pressure from powerful allies like the United States. This message of self-reliance and national strength struck a chord with Canadians who were growing increasingly wary of their country's dependence on the U.S. Poilievre's response to Trump's threats went beyond mere condemnation. He outlined a series of policy proposals aimed at strengthening Canada's economic independence and reducing its reliance on the U.S. These proposals included diversifying trade partnerships, investing in Canadian industries, and reducing regulatory barriers to domestic businesses. Beyond addressing international tensions, Poilievre dedicated a significant portion of his Canada First rally speech to outlining his economic vision for the country. He argued that Canada's economy was being held back by excessive government regulation, high taxes, and a lack of support for key industries. Poilievre positioned himself as a champion for economic growth, promising to unleash Canada's potential through a series of bold policy changes. One of Poilievre's key economic proposals was the complete repeal of Bill C-69, a controversial piece of legislation that overhauled Canada's environmental assessment process for major infrastructure projects. Critics of the bill, including Poilievre, argued that it created unnecessary delays and uncertainty for businesses, hindering investment and job creation. Poilievre pledged to replace Bill C-69 with a more streamlined and efficient process that would balance environmental protection with economic development. In addition to repealing Bill C-69, Poilievre called for a range of other measures aimed at stimulating economic growth. These included tax cuts for businesses and individuals, deregulation across various sectors, and increased investment in infrastructure projects, particularly those related to energy development. Poilievre argued that these measures would create jobs, attract investment, and make Canada more competitive on the global stage. A central plank of Poilievre's economic platform was his unwavering support for Canada's energy sector. He argued that Canada should be a global energy superpower, leveraging its vast resources to create jobs and generate wealth. To this end, Poilievre pledged to expedite the approval process for energy projects, including pipelines, and to promote Canadian energy products on the world market, Poilievre's economic vision resonated with many Canadians, particularly those in Western Canada, who felt that their concerns had been ignored by the Liberal government. His promises of tax cuts, deregulation, and support for the energy sector appealed to a sense of frustration among some Canadians who felt that the government was standing in the way of economic opportunity. Section 4. The Carbon Tax Conundrum, a divisive issue in Canadian politics. No discussion of Poilievre's Canada First rally would be complete without addressing his stance on the carbon tax. This policy, implemented by the Liberal government as a key measure to combat climate change, had become a highly divisive issue in Canadian politics. Poilievre seized on this division, making the carbon tax a central target of his criticism. Poilievre argued that the carbon tax was a job-killing tax grab that disproportionately hurt working-class Canadians. He claimed that it increased the cost of living without effectively reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Instead, Poilievre proposed a focus on technological innovation and market-based solutions to address climate change, arguing that these approaches would be more effective and less harmful to the economy. The carbon tax had become a lightning rod for broader debates about the role of government, environmental policy, and the distribution of wealth in Canada. Poilievre's decision to make it a central issue in his Canada First rally highlighted the deep divisions that existed within Canadian society on these issues. His opposition to the carbon tax resonated with many Canadians who were skeptical of the government's approach to climate change and concerned about the economic impact of environmental policies. Poilievre's stance on the carbon tax aligned with his broader message of reducing the size and scope of government. He argued that the government should not be picking winners and losers in the economy, and that Canadians were better off keeping more of their own money. This message of individual liberty and economic freedom resonated with a segment of the population that felt overtaxed and overregulated. The carbon tax debate became a microcosm of the broader political landscape in Canada. It reflected a growing polarization and a sense of frustration with the status quo. Poilievre's decision to tap into this sentiment underscored his political acumen and his ability to connect with Canadians who felt ignored by the political establishment. Section 5. Liberal Rebuke, a stark contrast in visions for Canada. Poilievre's Canada First rally and the policies he outlined did not go unchallenged. The Liberal Party, led by Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, issued a swift and pointed rebuke to Poilievre's vision for Canada. They accused him of peddling divisive rhetoric, undermining national unity, and offering simplistic solutions to complex problems. The Liberals argued that Poilievre's Canada First message was a thinly veiled attempt to exploit nationalist sentiments for political gain. They pointed to his criticism of immigration and multiculturalism as evidence of a divisive agenda that sought to pit Canadians against each other. The Liberals maintained that their vision of an inclusive and diverse Canada stood in stark contrast to Poilievre's more narrow and exclusionary rhetoric. On economic issues, the Liberals defended their record in government, pointing to low unemployment rates and steady economic growth as evidence of their sound stewardship. They argued that Poilievre's proposed tax cuts and deregulation would benefit the wealthy at the expense of the middle class and the most vulnerable. The Liberals accused Poilievre of prioritizing corporate interests over the well-being of ordinary Canadians. The Liberals also launched a scathing attack on Poilievre's environmental record, accusing him of being beholden to the oil and gas industry. They criticized his opposition to the carbon tax and his support for expanding fossil fuel development. The Liberals maintained that their government was committed to fighting climate change while growing the economy, accusing Poilievre of offering a false choice between environmental protection and economic prosperity. The Liberal Party's response to Poilievre's Canada First rally highlighted the deep ideological divide that existed between the two parties. It signaled a continuation of the partisan battles that had come to characterize Canadian politics. This clash of visions for Canada's future set the stage for a potentially contentious and divisive election campaign.